Welcome back to Rewitched, a Charmed 1998 rewatch journey. I'm your host, Jess Sabanko, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on one of my favorite shows with you. Though episodes are now shorter, I will still be keeping them spoiler-free and welcome fans, new and old, to join me on my journey here and on social media at Rewitched_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Currently, I'm on season 5. So this week we're doing part 2 of season 5, episode 12, Centennial Charmed. This time I really do want to focus in on Cole and his storyline leading up to this episode, which may or may not be his final vanquish. Again, we're spoiler free. But it does seem very much like an end to this storyline they've been building up to, and it does make sense to kind of have this little recap here at this midpoint of the season. In terms of where Cole's at in this episode, we do very much see that he has decided to join the Avatars. Prior to that, at the end of last episode, of course, we did see that hint that maybe he's okay with killing Phoebe, which does come up again in this episode and does show some of those abusive behaviors I've talked about previously with Cole. So we start out the episode finding out that it's his birthday as he comes into his penthouse, very sad, looking at a picture of Phoebe, again, reminiscing on what they used to have, that obsession that his love has really turned into. Paige comes in, attempts the vanquish, fails. He's really pissed. This leads to him making the decision to go to the Avatar, who we saw a few episodes ago. I also do think that this Avatar storyline feels kind of rushed and like we didn't really get enough of them to really have this episode have the meaning that I think it could if we'd carried out that storyline, had more of them coming to him or more of him kind of contemplating this decision. But that's the way the show decided to go. They only wanted to do half a season with this Cole storyline, which in my opinion wasn't the best choice. We'll see how the rest of the season does go after this and how they kind of develop. Maybe the Avatars will have more to do with later season. I don't know. But in terms of Cole's decision, he decides that he will join, but he's very like snarky here. He's like, you guys need me, but I want to use your ultimate power for something before I agree to join you, be part of this culture that you guys want to build and control, as the other guy brings up. They do the ritual to turn him into an avatar, and the guy's like, all right, come on, let's go. And he's like, no, remember, I have to do my thing first. Like, I'm getting Phoebe back. And he's like, our power does not give you the ability to like make someone love you. And he's like, yeah, but I can like alter time and reality so that Paige never came into the picture. The Charmed ones were never reconstituted. That's what ruined our love. So I think it's really interesting that that's the moment that Cole decides to change. And I think it shows a little bit of a lack of accountability for his actions and this really selfishness of his character, because Paige joining the family did a lot to improve things for both Phoebe and Piper as well as the greater good. But he's only concerned about how it affects his relationship with Phoebe and whether or not they can be together, right? Because that's the only thing in the whole fucking world that Cole cares about. And that is something we've seen with his characters many times since his introduction. So it's very consistent, but it's also very just like, it shows that Phoebe's not necessarily wrong in thinking that Cole will always be evil, because he can never choose other things over his own happiness at being with Phoebe and the misery that being without her can bring him. He even says, I'm not going to spend another 100 years without her. It's that possession, that desire to have her as his or not have anything at all, which he brings up later in the episode when he literally says, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. Like, Cole is obsessed with their love story. He's not in love with her anymore. He's really just not. And it's so abusive and it's so hard and difficult to watch, because I was such a Cole and Phoebe shipper early on, but seeing Cole's trajectory since mid-season 4 to now, there's so much about Cole that I really, really hate. And I think as a younger viewer, I was so drawn to like the romance of it all that I wasn't always paying as close attention to like how horribly abusive Cole actually is in the heat of these moments and when he doesn't get what he wants. And that's not a man that Phoebe deserves. I know there's a lot of hate on Phoebe as like being a selfish character, which there's a lot in the text to support that argument, but I do think that Cole is much, much worse. And I don't forgive him for all that he's done. There were points early in this season where I was like, okay, Cole's trying to be good maybe, but I think that the show was never going to let him be good. Whether or not there was possibility for it, I think is another discussion, but I think directly what we're seeing, Cole was always going to go on this path to be evil because Cole only cares about what he wants, which in this case is Phoebe. So we see that he decides to create this alternate reality. Again, there were so many different moments he could have chosen. For example, the moment he took in the hollow, the moment that he didn't tell Phoebe about the source, right? He could have gone back to the 3 faces of Phoebe and begged old Phoebe to tell young Phoebe about what was going on, right? He could have done that. He could have gone to the moment where he almost gives up his powers to the wizard before him and Phoebe become evil together. So many moments he could have chosen differently, and maybe then that love between them could have been enough to save him, right? But that's not how he sees it. He's like, Paige ruined our relationship. Obviously, it wasn't me. It was her. So we gotta kill that bitch. And we see again him turning against Paige, which he also did in the last episode. Which I think, in terms of choosing a sister, I think in his mind he sees Paige as slightly less than the other two. He brought up in Y Tu Mami Tambien that he thought that Piper would choose to save Phoebe over Paige because their connection is so much less because they've known each other a shorter amount of time and they're only half siblings. And now he's kind of doing the same here where he thinks that Phoebe's loss here will be less because it's not what she had with Prue and Piper. Like, he wouldn't say kill off all the charmed ones. He's like, kill off Paige because that's what kept me and Phoebe from being together. So once he sets this alternate reality, he is warned by the Avatar that this is going to, not play out how he wants it to. He's not invincible here. He's living this Cole, the one who's Balthazar, the one who's the source's right-hand man's life, and he can be destroyed in this universe, that he should reverse things before it's too late. And Cole says, no, I have to see how it plays out first. I have to see what happens with me and Phoebe. So he goes into the manor, completely accepting that all these demons are here to celebrate his birthday, that the seer's there. There is this little bit of confusion with the other demons when he's acting kind of off, and the seer calls him out for this later. So does the woman Darla, who he is apparently having an affair with, but in this version of himself has no interest. It was really weird when they bring up this idea that Cole and Phoebe both have affairs for 2 reasons for me. One, the fact that I could never see Cole having an affair because of that obsession he has with Phoebe. And also the idea that the seer wants them to have this demonic conception and then she's gonna take the baby, though in this universe Cole is in on that plan. It doesn't really add up with Cole's character for me. It feels really inconsistent, really out of character. In terms of his interactions with Phoebe, it's really interesting to see the way she reacts with him at first, and we get that first hint of them not being in love in this universe, which is obviously what he was hoping for. And then we have the bedroom scene where he comes in, vanquishes the other demon, which, okay, fine. And then the way he just completely flips out on her, the way she reacts so afraid, which tells us that Cole has been violent and abusive towards her in this universe too. That is something in his character that exists. No matter what he changes, evil Cole is an abusive character. And it brings me back to something that I've brought up previously, this idea that if evil is a metaphor for addiction or using or something to that effect, that the survivor, the victim of that abuse, does not have to forgive that behavior, right? And the fear in Phoebe in this scene is really effective, I think, at conveying the message that Cole is just as bad in this world, probably worse, honestly. And when she brings up that she's only there to protect Piper from being hurt and that he's aware of that too, I think seeing Cole kind of then say, well, if this is gonna end me, it's gonna end you too, says everything I need to know about the fact that this isn't love anymore. It's just obsession. And it's heartbreaking to see because I did, again, love this relationship early on. And I did hope that Phoebe's love could save Cole. And I was rooting for that, but it can't. You can't always bring someone back. You can't fix your abuser by loving them enough, right? And I think seeing what happens in the end when he hits her, one, and then when he still thinks after all of that she won't vanquish him. And she does. It's such a strength to her character, and it brings Cole back to what we've seen for so many demons in the past. He really believed, one, in his own power, but also in his love with Phoebe, that would save him over anything. That as long as he had that was his true power, right? She would never vanquish him. She would never hurt him. But we saw previously in the other universe, as well as in this one, that she is capable of it, that she's always going to choose her sisters. And his idea that he's so powerful and he's so beyond the universe and destiny that he could make this decision and not have it affect him, it's that cockiness we've seen in so many demons before. But I think it's also connected to the death wish we saw from Cole at the beginning of the season, where if Cole can't have Phoebe, he doesn't want his life. And I thought that was one of the pieces of the writing that was really smart. The way that he's like, well, if she's gonna end me, she's gonna end me. That Phoebe is the only person in this universe who could take him out, right? He brought that up in season 4. And I think that it's really kind of this tragic but full circle ending for Cole. So that is one of the strengths to this episode. Like I said, there are things that are strong about it. There are things that didn't add up, which I brought up in part 1 as well as in this part. I do like it in terms of an ending for Cole. I do think his overall story this season, like I've said before, was really rushed. I wish we could have built up to this moment more. Early in the season, we see him trying to be good. We see this moment of connection in A Witch in Time that then is obviously reversed when that time loop gets reversed. And then there's this really quick decline into like, Cole is so evil, Cole is so terrible again. And it doesn't really work for me all the way. I do like the overall ending and that we get to this point. I just wish it had been built up a little differently. And if I were in that writer's room, I definitely would have pushed for a longer set for this storyline. I get that they have other things coming up and other things going on. In terms of one, we're getting closer to the end of Piper's pregnancy, so I think there's going to be some things going on with that in terms of the baby. There is this really definitive of like Phoebe's done, so maybe they didn't want to keep pushing that again and again in a way that might lose interest. And of course, Paige's storyline in this episode was really interesting in terms of her goals for independence, her being able to work with her sisters to stop Cole, and her faith in the fact that this was permanent and they can finally move on with their lives was really strong as well. So yeah, I mean, overall, good episode. I just remember it being better, and I think some of the potential could have been more fulfilled had this been a 2-part episode, which I would have really enjoyed, honestly. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on this one. So hope you'll join me back next time.